Welcome to a study of the parables of Jesus. Today we will study the parable of the lost sheep, lesson 18 in the series. The parable is found in Matthew 18, 10 through 14. And so I'll give you a moment. The parable of the lost sheep. See that you do not look down on one of these little ones, for I tell you that their angels in heaven are always see the face of my Father in heaven. What do you think? If a man owns 100 sheep and one of them wanders away, will he not leave the 99 on the hills and go look for the one that wandered off? And if he finds it, I tell you the truth, he is happier about that one sheep than about the 99 that did not wander off. In the same way, your Father in heaven is not willing that one of these little ones should be lost. This is one of those parables that the social and historical background is not specific. This could have happened any place where there are sheep and shepherds. It transcends time and place. Matthew places this parable in the context of Jesus' disciples asking him who was the greatest in the kingdom, the rule of heaven. Based on the evidence in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, this subject seemed to have occupied their attention a great deal. But look at it this way, it was important to them. They still hadn't sorted out whether Jesus was going to be a triumphant king in the Davidic line, and that if that happened, they would be in line to have the chief administrative officers in the kingdom. So they wanted to know ahead of time. They were always discussing it. On this occasion, Jesus responded by calling a little child to come and stand among them. Now, this brings up a point. Jesus used little children as teaching tools many times in his preaching career. In this, he was different from the Jewish religious teachers. They had little or nothing to do with children. They wouldn't know how to take care of one if they had one. So Jesus was unique here. But modern readers automatically assume that when Jesus illustrates a lesson with a little child, he's talking about innocence. That is not what the audience did in the first century in Palestine. They would never thought that way. They thought in terms of dependence and low social rank. And that makes sense because that's what Jesus was talking about to his apostles, his disciples. That is, the rank they would have in the kingdom. He was telling them that they must not be concerned about social rank in the kingdom and be willing to be of the lowest rank. Even they had to be the lowest rank even to enter it, because to enter the kingdom of heaven, one must confess their dependence on God. Totally, completely dependent. If you try to enter on your own terms or on your own working, you cannot enter. It's a matter of grace, a matter of the gift of God. However, the low social rank of a little child, now this is the thrust of the parable. They would immediately think that meant that social rank, God didn't even consider it. But you know, Jesus has a different thrust here in this parable. It's as if he said, yes, you have to be of the lowest social rank to be in the kingdom. But that doesn't mean God doesn't value you. This is one of the lessons that is very hard for certain kinds of modern believers. They either think too highly of themselves or they think too poorly of themselves. And this is a parable that says, don't think too poorly of yourself, because you are valuable to God, so valuable to God that he counts your value greater than his honor. That's the point here. God is willing to leave off running the kingdom and go looking for you if you wander away. The Jews would have thought in terms of honor. You mean God condescends to come looking for a sinner? That's just about the way they would say it in their life. And Jesus says, yes, they are so valuable that to God, that anyone who causes even one of them to sin would be better off if they had never been born. We can quickly look at this parable. What's the meaning, significance of the individual elements of the parable? The one who owns the sheep is God. The flock of sheep is the covenant people of God. The sheep becoming lost symbolizes an individual's failure to meet their covenant responsibility. And then that leaves, how do you make this parable your own? It's rather simple, people. You value yourself as God values you. You don't think of yourself as independent and as self-important, but you do think of yourself as important to God. The value of something is what somebody is willing to pay for it. I heard one time debate between people, as you often do, about what, if you was on a desert island, what would you want? And somebody said, well, you wouldn't want a ton of gold, but a ton of wheat would be a very valuable thing. My fellow believers, you are worth the life of the Son of God. Be like Paul. Boast in that, not in your intrinsic worth, but in your worth to God. Thank you.